Sweet.
So I'm here now today with Jason Black. Jason Black is probably one of Ireland's greatest endurance athletes. He's done mountain climbing. He's a massive cyclist. Welcome, Jason.
Hey, thanks, Jamie. Lovely to be here.
Just going back I suppose, back to the very start, Jason, where it all began for you. We all know in Ireland there isn't that much, there isn't that many, mountain climbing isn't a number one sport on everyone's list. But just getting back to your youth, growing up as a young Jason Black, where did it all begin?
For me, it started very early. I suppose I bounced onto the scene nationally and internationally whenever I took on Everest in 2013. But that was kind of like the tail end of the story for me. I was introduced to the great outdoors in Donegal as a very young boy. 7 years of age was probably my earliest recollection. I joined Cubs and Scouts. My mum, there was a car heading to Cubs and Scouts, and my mum got me into that car. I was a next door neighbour, and I found myself there. I didn't really know what it was about, and I think she was more happy to get me out of the house from terrorising her for a couple of hours. And look, I was introduced to two wonderful people, Maurice Graham and Daisy McConnell, who were two very adventurous leaders. And rather than keeping us in a scout hall, their attitude was to get us into the great outdoors. And very quickly, I found myself in the lakes and the rivers and the mountains. And as a young buck in Donegal, I just was completely in awe. I fell in love with Mother Nature very, very fast. And that became critical to me, not as an athlete, but more from a mental health perspective later on in life. It was probably the crutch that carried me through a young, early teenage depression that I probably didn't realize that I had. So for me, as a seasoned mountaineer today, the great outdoors to me means more than just a playground.
Yes.
It was a real place of healing for me.
I can recall in one of your interviews before you saying that you had an issue with bullying growing up as a child. So do you think that, we'll say, coming to deal with the bullying, I don't know, was it something that you'd come home and tell your mom and dad about? Was it easier just go to the hills hiking and kind of just free your head, get away from it all?
Look, the reality was growing up in Donegal, I suppose growing up in rural Ireland back in the 80s was a different Ireland to what we have today, sadly. But thankfully, we live in a wonderful, open environment today. Look, I left a kind of a rural secondary or national school. I was very happy in the countryside, very small classroom, and a wonderful education right up till I went to secondary school. And sadly for me, I walked into the gates of a large secondary school. I call it like a Harry Potter style castle, and I lost an education for 6 years at the hands of a violent bully, and it was physical and mental torture every day. From 9 in the morning till 4 in the evening. And even thinking about it now, I remember sitting having my breakfast in the morning, and I had the courage to tell mommy and daddy what was happening, because I could see that life was difficult enough at home to try to keep things going. And I was the eldest, and I was putting a brave face on it, but eating the porridge or eating the cornflakes, it was near choking, and the hairs were standing in the back of my neck. And then getting the CIE bus into town, and I knew what was going to happen at 9 o'clock, and I had to endure it every day for, I'd say, the guts of 6 years.
So,
I suppose.
Yeah. How does a 12-year-old Jason Black deal with that then on a day-to-day basis, knowing every day for 6 years you're facing this?
My out was Mother Nature. When I got home at 4 o'clock, thankfully back then 4 o'clock was the end of it. Unfortunately today, because of social media and all the platforms exist today, bullies can continue for 24 hours. And that's really tough and challenging for young kids today. But for me at 4 o'clock, I threw the bag in the corner. I didn't want to see the bag. I didn't want to see the books. I didn't want to see the studies. Didn't want to see anything to do or reflect with school. And all I wanted to do was get on my bike or get on my runners and run. And it was like the great escape. And I was able to scream, cry. and took out all the frustration. And that's why I'm indebted to Mother Nature, is because she didn't judge me. Because when I was at school, I felt judged all the time because I wasn't making the grades, I wasn't getting the exam results, and I felt judged all the time. And
Of
what
course,
was
yeah.
destroying it, was the bully, and it wasn't
And
because I was stupid. It was just
and
the
I
bully.
suppose you were probably getting, as most kids do, when they hide something like bullying, they get that label. Oh, there must be something wrong. He's slow. He's not learning. He's stupid. But I mean, at the back of it all, you were dealing with something horrendous in bullying, and that was mentally affecting you and your capability to study.
Yeah. Sadly, society has a box, and if you don't fit into that box, you're kind of you're branded a freak, or
You're labeled, yeah,
there's something wrong with it. You're labeled, and one of the strong messages I carry today into schools when I talk to young kids is have the courage to be yourself, walk in your own shoes, wear the clothes you want to wear, and do the things, and be passionate about what's important in your life. And by doing that, you're true to yourself. And I know it's easy saying it as a grown, mature man now today, and it's harder for a young cub even today to live that life, because they are judged, they are characterized, and unfortunately society does put us in boxes. When we don't get the grades, when you don't get a good leaving cert, is it because you're stupid? It's not. You haven't just found your destiny, or your proper road in life. You could be a wonderful mechanic, or a butcher, or there's another route there for you. And sadly, just if you don't make the grade, you're put in a box.
Growing up, of course, bullying was hard enough, but growing up was difficult for you in the sense that when you were 17, you lost your mom, Frida. That must have been horrendous on the family and your dad as well.
It was real tough, because like mommy was a typical wonderful mum. Like, she was the glue in our house. And I use this phrase commonly and openly. Mum could make a dinner out of an empty fridge, because growing up in Donegal, we didn't have a lot. Daddy was a very hard-working motor mechanic, and mum was a very hard-working housewife with 4 kids coming in that was screaming hungry. And we were savages, and we never starved. We always had beautiful food, and I don't know where they got the money for it. And you never think back then, but losing mommy was brutal. It was at the same time I was leaving school, and I was going out the school gates, and I didn't really know where I was going. I didn't get a junior cert or a leaving cert, and the headmaster told me that I'd never materialised to anything, and that actually fueled me. But losing mum was difficult. It kind of sent me spiraling through life, and it kind of lost me way. But the wonderful thing about it was that, and that's why I'm so passionate about the great outdoors, it was the one thing that didn't judge me. It was the one thing that just allowed Jason Black to be me. And the freedom of the mountains, the freedom of the water, the freedom of my bike was just, it was my therapy. It was my doctor. It was my medicine. And to be honest with you, it's probably the only reason why I'm sitting here today.
Thank God, thank God. And you met, of course, you met your beautiful wife Sharon along the way as well.
Yeah, look, yeah, we were like two boats passing, and we collided, and we're 2 very opposite people, which is, I think, is what probably made our relationship super strong. I'm the bucking mad horse, and she's the one sitting on the back with the bridle on and trying to hold me back. And we're a great yin and yang. But she's very passionate about not only letting me follow my dreams. She's the same with her kids, and she's the same with other people. Sharon's a big believer in being independent in everything, being independent in the marriage, even though you're married, being true to your own values and your own life, and being a crusade and following your passion and your goals and your ambitions. And, I'm very thankful to Sharon, and I tell her that quite regular, usually when we have a couple of glasses of wine, but I tell her that Sharon is without doubt a large reason why I'm successful in sport.
And shortly after you got married, then you were unfortunate, the tragedy again of losing your brother Billy, which was, I can imagine. Look, you've had a lot of kids now, but at this stage now, but losing Billy was the final straw, I'd imagine.
It was a tough one, because got married in '97, and Billy was my best man. Growing up as 2 young boys in a house of 2 girls, we were best friends and arch enemies. And you know, we would have fought like cats and dogs, but we had each other's backs. We were only a year apart. I was the oldest, he was the second oldest, and he was a great character. He was a motor mechanic, great with his hands, and a bit of a madman, but just brilliant fun. Like, and I miss him so much in my life today, you know, and he would bring so much value to my kids today and fun. And yeah, look, he was my best man on the 19th of August, and I couldn't afford a honeymoon, and Billy, he was living and working in Philadelphia. He was always a great adventure to go and find destiny somewhere else. And he said, "Look, sir, why don't you and Sharon come out to me?" And 2 weeks after arriving, Billy was killed in a motorbike accident, and it was just incredible. I'd lost my way then. I'd be a very strong believer in our Lord, which I am today, and I walk with him every day, and he keeps me well. But back then, I kind of lost the will for a spiritual leader, because I couldn't fathom the hardship that my dad had to endure and our family had to overcome. But I made peace with that, thankfully. And I think the mountains brought that back to me again. That time on my own, and that solitude, and that emptiness, and the noise and the screaming of the hardship was probably where I really got solitude. Certainly on Everest. I mean, I went there to climb a big mountain, and I climbed out of the gutter of life. I climbed my own life. I put to bed the bully, mommy, and Billy.
What did you think? What do you think was? Do you think that those three elements was the driving force for you wanting to climb Everest? Was it always on your agenda?
No, I met Dawson Stelfox as a young boy when I was in that very difficult time. He was doing a tour of Ireland, and he stopped off in Letterkenny, and I was an older scout at that stage, and I went to listen to him, and he spoke about what it was like to climb an 8,000-meter mountain, and I was blown away by it because I was so engrossed in the great outdoors. I stayed back afterwards, and he knew by me I was really taken by his depiction of what they went through as mountaineers and as athletes and as human beings. He wrote me a note. I still have it. I still have it here in the house, and it was a booklet with all the photographs of the climb in it. And I suppose, not arrogantly signing it Dawson Stelfox, he signed it, "Jason, always follow your dreams and passion in life." And it wasn't really Everest, but when I was losing focus, I wanted to re-reel it again. And I just couldn't get a job because I didn't have the qualifications. I was packing the shelves in Dunnes Stores, which is perfectly fine, but I just couldn't get off my knees every time I went for an interview because I didn't have the qualifications. Society kept putting me to the back of the queue, and I just couldn't get up. I couldn't get off my knees at all, and I was trying to find a way forward, and I just reflected then on my strength from the mountains and my strength from nature, and I knew that I was good at doing what I'd done within the great outdoors. And I wondered, maybe that was my destiny, maybe that was my passion, and I found that. I started growing an apprenticeship as a mountaineer, leading on from the Irish mountains, English, Scottish, Welsh, and getting into France and experiencing Mont Blanc, and it was probably my first big white mountain. And then started honing the craft as an ice climber and all the safety skills required, and then getting into Nepal, getting to experience my first 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 meter mountain, and then into Alaska and to Denali and Kilimanjaro. And then they led me on this natural road to Mount Everest in 2013, and then obviously K2 in 2018. And I reflect on that journey, and it was more than a mountaineer's journey for me. It was just this incredible roller coaster of development as a human being. And I'm just thankful to the mountains that it allowed me to do it and not judge me, because the two different worlds, the world as a mountaineer is very different to the world that we live in today. They're two very different spaces, and a pure mountaineer knows what that feels like. And then when you come back to this world, it's full of judgment, and you have to measure up to a certain type of standard. Whereas a mountaineer, you're just yourself.
Of course, while you were across Europe climbing mountains, yourself and Sharon had set up very successful businesses here in Ireland, in Letterkenny. So which allowed you the freedom to do that.
Yeah, look, pot luck came in as well, and I believe a lot in luck, and you make your own luck as well. I do believe in that. You have to work hard and have ambition, and I suppose believe in yourself, and that kind of led me to get into business, because I certainly didn't have the pedigree on the outside looking in to be in business. I certainly didn't have the money to do it. So from packing the shelves in Dunn stores, I got an opportunity to become the sales rep um, in Cadbury's Chocolate, and I was doing that for 6 years, and I loved it. But I was missing home because I was living out of a suitcase, and Sharon was at home, um, looking after the kids. We have 4 wonderful kids, but back then we had only 2. And I went into a shop one morning in Donegal in Letterkenny, and I behind the counter, I asked Louis how he was, and he said he was hating the business and didn't like it. And I said, funny, I would love this business, Louis, and I would love to settle down in Letterkenny. And he says, Jason, I'll sell you the shop. It was 9 o'clock on a Monday morning. I didn't have any money. And he said, look, if I can put a structure in place, would you consider it? And I says, I would. And we went upstairs for a cup of coffee, and I walked out the door at 11 o'clock with the shop bought, and I hadn't 10 cents to my name. And I went home, told Sharon, and it took off from there. And we grew a business from 0 to 180 staff with a turnover of nearly 12 million euros a year. And I had a bit mind-boggling, to be honest with you, and got shot of it all 4 years ago, and I really wanted to find another direction in my life. I'd fallen into the commercial traps of cars and houses and fancy clothes and all that, and it wasn't Jason Black. It wasn't the person that I was. It wasn't the person that the mountains grew me up to be. And
that was while I enjoyed Jason Black, the businessman.
It was Jason Black, this businessman, but it wasn't Jason Black, the comfortable Jason Black. And today I'm back to myself. Today I'm back with my roots, and I don't regret that time. It was an incredible journey. It was an incredible baptism. It opened so many doors for me, but it probably taught me a great lesson about who I was and what my identity was, what my character was, and it probably kept me on course to find purpose in my life, which I think I'm doing today by spreading and sharing my life story and inspiration to never take no for an answer with young kids.
Brilliant. And of course, people that haven't seen you before on screen, they would have seen you recently on Ultimate Hell Week, and of course you've got coming up on Amazon Prime. Then you've got the Eco Challenge coming up, the Bear Grylls, the greatest race in the world. So you're becoming a bit of a film star, Jason.
Yeah, I never went looking for it, but there's some positives coming out from the exposure. When you're in the shop window, the doors keep opening, and for me, the calls keep coming to keep going back to the schools, colleges, and societies, groups, and clubs, and to engage with young people. And I've said it openly and honestly that the greatest summit that I'm standing on today isn't the mountains that I've overcome. It's the opportunity to stand in a classroom in front of young kids and tell a human story that is filled with, in some cases, misery and despair, and the other side of it, incredible success. And that with an attitude, you can achieve anything, as long as you can stop the dream stealers from getting into your head and destroying them. And the opportunity to get on TV with Ultimate Hell Week there in November, which showed there just after Christmas, was mind-bogglingly brilliant. Getting an opportunity to see inside the world of a special force agent was incredible. I have so much respect for them. And then later this summer now, there's 10 one-hour series that's been shared on Amazon Prime with Eco Challenge Fiji, which was just the most ridiculous 9-day race that I've ever put myself through. But through endurance you can conquer, and that's the message.
And of course, during that Eco Challenge race as well, you were unlucky to get a serious infection that nearly took your life.
It did, yeah. I just picked up. Look, the nature of the race was it was completely unsupported. Find your food, find your water, navigate yourself. We didn't know the disciplines that they were coming at us. There was 9 or 10 different disciplines, from whitewater rafting, deep sea diving, kayaking. It was banana stuff. But we were thrown
Sorry,
through.
were you going over there, Jason, as a solo athlete, or were you going over as an Irish group?
No,
Was there
I
a
was
team?
part of a four-person Irish team. I
Okay.
was honoured to be part of that team. It was such a privilege to be there in the tricolour, you know, against the greatest endurance athletes in the world. But anyway, you know, on the 11th hour, we were going through quagmire and still water and stuff through the jungle. And I picked up an infection, which came in through some open wounds in my legs. And unfortunately for me, septicemia and 2 other diseases got into my blood and had to be plucked at the finish line, airlifted, taken to Fiji hospital. They couldn't get on top of them. They knew one of the diseases, but they couldn't recognize 2. And then I had to be airlifted and taken to a disease clinic, a specialized clinic in New Zealand. And I crashed mid-flight and they resuscitated me. But all's well, got into the clinic on a positive note. And they were delighted because they had never seen these diseases before. So they grew the cultures in the lab. I was a bit of a guinea pig and I got released a week later. And I'm well and able to tell the story. And it's just, look, it's like being a mountaineer. There's things that we can control and we should control. And this is a perfect example of it now in the middle of this COVID-19. I appeal to people to control what you can control: your physical health, your mental attitude, your behaviors, your values, your principles, and let the things go that you can't control. You can't control the virus, or you can't control the lockdown, but you can control the positivity in your mind. And that's
100%, yeah.
that's really, really important.
Getting on from there, then where did the cycling come into it then?
Always
Because, I
was
mean,
there.
I've seen some of the stuff you've done, like the transatlantic cycle, 2,500 kilometers, 4,000 kilometers. How do you do that, Jason?
Look, you know, it's through endurance you conquer. It's, you know, I started out as a cyclist a long time with that, alongside the bully. The bike became my inhibitor. It became the vehicle
Your
to get me
escapism.
further away from. Yeah, it got me further away from those school gates. The bike also was my only way of transport. I didn't have a car or anything. That's a fact. I didn't have a car right up until I was 20 years of age. The bike was my only way of courting, going to the shop. I done everything on my bike. Yeah, look, you know, once I kind of raced as a good amateur in Ireland. I raced the Ross Talton, I raced the Ross, and I kind of raced in England, Scotland, and Ireland, and got myself to a pretty good standard. And then as a later athlete, when I couldn't stay with the juniors and the fast guys any longer, I progressed into endurance sport. And you know, it kind of matched my lifestyle as a mountaineer, because what the endurance does is you go long and you go hard, and the distances become, you know, beyond you know, the human capacity and beyond what society thinks is doable. And you got to find for yourself. A lot of them I do unsupported. One of the fantastic ones I done was the North Cape 4000 up from Italy to the end of the earth in Norway. And you had to find your food, find your water, navigate yourself. I took a sleeping bag with me. I would ride the bike for 18, 19 hours a day and just crash for an hour in the woods at the side of the road. And I loved that. I just loved it. It kind of reflected who I was, that self-sufficiency, you know, dealing with a bully, dealing with all the elements, judging, you know, dealing with life trying to judge me. And I could stop when I needed to stop. I could sleep when I wanted to sleep. And I was really content in my own mind. And there's something very powerful about being in control.